Okay, welcome everyone to our Monday, August 21st, 2023 strategic planning meeting. Let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present and our executive management team. We have the sheriff with us this morning and Chandler Fox, our DEM manager. We are going to suspend our normal agenda today. We will suspend it till either tomorrow or a future date. With the state of emergency declared and the fires, that we are going to have basically the meeting talking about that as we are all kind of scrambling to figure out all the ways that we can help our community at this point in time. Commissioner French asked for a personal moment, so I'm going to offer that to Commissioner French.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This fire episodes have touched a lot of people in this community in a very personal way, and we're dealing with tragedies and lives. But I just found out yesterday that the gentleman that was a victim of the Great Fire on Friday night was a personal friend and supporter of mine, Carl Grubb. Carl was a community leader in Medical Lake, as well as the founder of the Jensen Memorial Youth Ranch that provided opportunities for kids to raise animals and learn about the ag industry and stuff. And I just want to send my heartfelt sympathy to the family, as well as the community and his loss. It'll be a significant loss to the community. And just a good old boy, salt of the earth and heart as big as all outdoors. So just wanted to share that with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, and sorry for your loss. With that, then we have the sheriff, and I know you guys are extremely busy, and so thank you very much for being here this morning. Really appreciate your taking the time to give us an update as to what's happened overnight.
Okay, so we're going to be receiving fresh information on the status of the fires here in about an hour, in particular from the North Oregon Road fire. I will say conditions have improved at the Grays Road fire significantly yesterday and overnight tonight. We're having some discussions about how we can collapse evacuation zones or downgrade evacuation zones, so that's good news. Clearly, the added personnel have made a huge difference in our ability to fight that fire on the ground. As everybody's been well aware, we have been very limited in the air resources they've been able to use to combat this fire. So the extra personnel on the ground, very needed, very helpful. We have made some changes into the closure of I-90, so now we are able to route traffic back onto 904, I believe, which is helping. It's still not optimal, but it's better. I will say that we're starting to transition into, with those extra crews, to where we're going to be able to start allowing people, hopefully in the near future, back into parts of Medical Lake. When I was in Medical Lake last evening, the Avista crews and the utility companies were all over the Medical Lake community, getting power lines back up. It's actually been fairly incredible to me how quickly they have moved, putting new power poles in, establishing lines, and getting power turned back on. So thank you to all of them for doing that. They are doing marvelous work, and hopefully we can get at least some of the residents back into Medical Lake sometime today or tomorrow, I hope. That is a goal. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's where we're trying to move as soon as possible. So with that, we have had a tremendous amount of support coming in from outside the area. We're having, again, Department of Fish and Wildlife are sending law enforcement resources into the area. Kittitas County Sheriff has lent us some of his resources in an effort to maintain a uniformed police presence in some of these evacuation zones to minimize or hopefully eliminate any kind of looting or burglarizing of people's homes while people are evacuated. We have a lot of patrols going on. And that is right now that our evacuation zones have maintained some sort of a stagnant state for the last 24 to 36 hours. That's allowed us to shift our law enforcement resources to public safety, public protection. So we'll continue to do that. We are in the process today of collating all of our missing persons reports from those regions and starting to address that issue now as those scenes become a little safer for personnel to be in and operating in that capacity. So we'll have more updates with that as time goes on. But I cannot restate how grateful we are for the support we've received from the city of Spokane. The mayor and the chief have been fantastic. I was literally made one phone call to the chief Friday afternoon, and they brought a tremendous amount of resources to bear for us. And they have been great in a presence throughout in both fire scenes, and that's both city fire and city police. They have been fantastic, and I don't know that we've sung enough of their praises yet, but I also think it shows what a great partnership we have as the county with the city of Spokane. And I don't know that the public understands that not all government entities work that well together, but we have a history of that. I think it's part of the culture of Spokane. And again, I can't thank them enough. I cannot thank the chief enough. Cannot thank the men and women of the police department enough here in Spokane and the city fire. They've been a great partner. So with that, again, we'll be updating more as the day goes on about what's happening. But of course, we have to get things put into place as we kind of transition what our operations look like over the next couple days and the weeks to come. So with that, I'll turn the time over to our Deputy Director of Department of Emergency Management, Chandra Fox, to talk a little bit about how these operations work.
Okay, so just some operational updates for you before we talk about additional resources. So our overnight shelter numbers at the Riverside Shelter for the Oregon fire, we had 9 individuals staying inside the shelter, and then we had 100 plus outside in their campers and trailers, just outside immediately with the shelter. We had a pretty significant growth in shelter population at the Spokane Falls site. We had 120 guests overnight at that shelter. We're continuing our animal operations currently at our fairgrounds. We're sheltering 322 various animals. We have everything from miniature donkeys and goats all the way up to horses and cattle. So a lot of animals there being taken care of. We also currently have animals, mostly poultry, at the Clayton Fairgrounds, but we have American Humane on site with us today, and they'll be helping us come up with a different plan for those. We have 750 pieces of poultry plus 12 livestock at Clayton, and so we'll be trying to come up with a different plan for their care. We're also supporting 37 domestic pets at the Riverside Shelter and 38 pets, cats and dogs, and a gerbil at the community college. So our operational priorities for today in the EOC, we are going to stand up a donations management center because folks are continuing to bring various items to both of the shelter locations, and it will just be easier to manage if we find a central location. So we have the Seventh-day Adventists on board to manage that for us. We're in the process right now of finding a location. So that will be the focus for today. And then we're also starting the planning for the Disaster Assistance Center. And I think our initial plan right now is to hopefully co-locate it at the community college and then provide ongoing shuttle transportation from the North Shelter to the community college, but that is still in flux. We're working through the logistics of that right now. We'll be reaching out to partner agencies. Thank Commissioner French for the information you gave me today, because that'll be included in that plan. So any specific questions, ma'am?
I might also have a location for kind of warehouse space.
Awesome,
as well.
that would be great, yes.
Any other questions?
So did
just
did you want me to, okay,
Yeah,
so.
I'll let you go ahead and, just on the sheltering side, is there any other questions for Chandra?
Sorry, what was the last piece that you were just saying about SCC, Spokane Community College?
So we're looking at the best logistics for our disaster assistance center. And since we have such a high shelter population at the community college, it kind of makes sense to locate it at least close to there and then provide transportation for the folks in the other shelter, instead of putting it somewhere else entirely and forcing everybody, to find their way around.
Got it, thank you.
I see, Betsy, I'm gonna have you do an update here after we get through Chandra, if that's okay, or do you wanna add to that point of the conversation?
Not the disaster center, but on sheltering. I'll come back to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so Commissioner had asked me to kind of briefly explain how the state and federal resource process works. So we are currently under what is called an FMAG declaration, which is the Fire Management Assistance Grant Program. And that will provide us some resources. It's very similar to the public assistance program that we use following natural disasters. And so it allows us to recoup some of the monies that we spend in emergency response and recovery functions. With the county's declaration of emergency, that did several things. So that gave us the authority within the county to follow our emergency purchasing policies and frees up that process for us to be able to move more quickly and more agilely in order to get the resources that we need. It eliminates the 3-bid process, all of those types of things to make it easier for us to do our work. So we very much appreciate that. The county declaration also supports the state declaration that we got from Governor Inslee. And that's the second step in working toward getting access to the federal resources. So now that we have the state proclamation in place, what will happen is the state will be assisting us in doing our damage assessment. So that's because in order to receive the presidential declaration, we need to meet certain financial impact thresholds in order to allow for the presidential declaration. Our challenge here is, as Sheriff alluded to, we still have the level 3 evacuation orders in place. And so we haven't been able to get crews on the ground to actually look and see what is left, what is gone. Is it their home? Is it their shop? Does it support their business? All of those types of questions. That's the information that we're going to have to gather. And as soon as we have those numbers, that will be transmitted to the state, and that will support our presidential declaration request that goes from the governor up through FEMA to President Biden. That will be, we're working it as soon as we can get into those areas, as soon as it's safe to do so. We'll be working on that. Additionally, as we work toward that, in partnership with the Red Cross will be doing case management, and they will be assisting in the damage assessment process as well. So any questions that I can answer on that?
Who does the actual assessment piece? And then what if we were to receive such a presidential declaration, what does that do for us?
So the damage assessment is a team effort. It's everybody. It's the Red Cross. It's our county building folks. It's a team, absolute team effort. Getting people out into the field, working with the property owner to establish what exactly it was that they lost. And then the presidential declaration, we're I shouldn't say we're hopeful, but our challenge with the presidential is there's 2 pieces to that. There's the public assistance piece, which of course helps us as the public entity. But then the second piece is the individual assistance, which is direct assistance to the individual citizen. That is a much harder threshold to meet. The way the system is, and we talked about this a little bit at a couple of the events yesterday with the governor, that's a much harder threshold to meet because their process is kind of focused more on flooding as opposed to wildland fire and other incidents like that. So that's why it's essential that we get in and really talk to folks and find out what it is they lost. So hopefully we can meet that threshold. My concern is we will have, I think, quite a few, especially in the Oregon fire, we'll have quite a few of our residents who are either underinsured or they're uninsured. And so those are the folks that I'm concerned about. And, we really want to meet that IA threshold so that we can support them.
And if it's not clear, the amount of property that was damaged or lost for the uninsured is a factor that FEMA takes into account. And that's how it becomes, a disadvantage for fire to flooding. Very few people get and have flood insurance. A lot of people have fire insurance, and so that's where the disadvantage lies. It's only part of the equation.
Yeah.
So the Congresswoman, I think, got legislation passed called the Malden Act, I believe, as a result of the Malden fire. Is there any benefit associated? Maybe Patrick, you might know more about this.
Yeah, so the Malden Act was the Making Aid for Local Disasters Equal Now, and had more to do with rural areas that had losses. So Malden was a small town in a small county, and it had to do with some of the magnitude threshold questions. It also is tried to establish, and I don't think that part was successful, a 30-day shot clock for approval. If the president didn't approve, then it would be automatically approved. So I'll get some more information to the board on that. It also said if individual assistance wasn't awarded, that disaster case managers through FEMA would still be available. So it kind of worked if you didn't have individual assistance approved, which to my knowledge has only been also landslide in recent years. It's been pretty difficult to get that individual assistance. The public oftentimes hears about $30,000 available for individual assistance, or conflates public assistance and individual assistance. So it'll be really important in our communications to be clear, if we do get a declaration, what is actually being approved, because we'll start to get calls wondering, what resources are available, how to apply for them.
And part of the challenge with that also is while yes, we may be able to provide some level of assistance, it does not make people whole. It is not intended to make people whole. It's really intended to be a stopgap to support them, while they're making other arrangements. But as we work on getting the Disaster Assistance Center stood up, the intent of the Disaster Assistance Center is to have all of these different partner agencies who are providing the programs and providing the support in the one area. So individuals can come to the DAC and talk to whichever agency they need to speak with to answer their issues.
I know we have Betsy, and she keeps nodding and shaking her head in agreement. So maybe, Betsy, you're with the Red Cross. I'll let you state your title and kind of what you're doing here, and then give your input as to what's happening. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. And thank you for, sorry for being late. Hearing great things. Thank you so much. It's good to see a lot of you again. I know you were part of the tour yesterdays that were happening at both of the shelters. My staff role is as a regional communications director for the Red Cross Northwest region. And I'm now in Spokane serving as the AD Assistant Director of External Relations. So that's the role I have on this particular response. So just to add on to what was already shared, at our Red Cross shelters, we have had 220 3 people overnight. And that number has gone down slightly since Friday. I think we had a peak of 300. As you heard, there's a mix of people staying inside and outside. One of the focuses that we have today is just knowing that we're not fully capturing the number of people who are displaced. We are getting calls and inquiries into our region about people saying, hey, I've lost everything. I'm at a friend's house. How do I get help? We've also heard that folks may have taken their RVs and are, parked in Walmarts and writing out the evacuation there, which with each of those, we're not capturing the information of the people who are impacted. And that helps us, request more money and just do the things that we need to do to get the assistance and the resources we need to help the community at large. So we want to get the word out to as much as possible to everyone who has been displaced. What you don't need to stay at our shelter, to come by, check in, maybe have lunch and get the resources that are the other resources that are available besides just staying there. Great partner efforts with, the supporting animals, as you already heard. We are in this phase now of trying to channel the energy that the community has. Both of our shelter managers have said that the community support has been overwhelming, and in their experience, the care that clients are receiving is second to no other shelter they've ever participated in their Red Cross careers. So that feels really good. I think the energy and the vibe and the care that's happening at those shelters is very high level. We need to stem the tide of donations that are coming in, material donations, and that is a constant effort to educate the community about how much of that helps, and then how much of it then becomes a storage, warehousing, management problem for the shelters in the short term and then in the long term. And you already are trying to figure out a place and an agency to, properly warehouse, manage, and distribute those things down the road. That is not the Red Cross. That's not, things are just piling up inside our shelter. That's not helpful. The other way that we're checking energy are the people who want to help and are signing up to become volunteers. There are 175 local members of this community who have said, please give me shifts at one. So we've captured their information, and right now we're actively creating shifts for them to come in and be able to sign up for. That's what's top of mind for me. Again, I come at this from more of a communications and awareness side of things. There's some of the more tactical issues that other folks are better prepared to answer. That adds a little bit of context to what we're doing for right now.
So Betsy, I would say, is there a phone number, or you said to have people come down to the community college location, Spokane Falls location? Because I think there's probably a lot of us, I know I've gotten several emails and texts and calls from friends who are staying with friends who have been displaced, but they're not at the shelters. So is there, if you want to be capturing that, I think that's good for all of us to know, to reach out to people we know. I know a couple of people who've lost their homes, but they're staying with friends. So,
right.
So is there a number, or just you're saying how do we come down?
So you can always call 1-800-RED Cross, and but that's a phone tree that kind of weaves you around. I think the most direct way is to just have them stop by. They can, that way their information is going straight to the folks who can use it. But 1-800-RED Cross is also a way to.
Thank you. Amber.
And when do you think you'll have the disaster assistance, center kind of popped up either at SFCC or another location? What's the time frame on that?
I think we could be ready to do. That's not me, right? Somebody else answering that?
Anyone answer.
No, we actually have a meeting with with the disaster program manager. It should be starting in just a minute with my staff. And that's part of the conversation is how quickly we can move on that. My goal absolutely is to have it sometime within the next several days. I can't give you an exact day time yet, but.
Right, but I think folks who are maybe staying with other friends and family, once that is stood up, they'll be able to come and.
Yes.
And then they can also access maybe other resources at the shelter if they need to.
That is the intent, yeah.
And they'll be counted towards this total number.
Absolutely.
Yes, okay.
Absolutely. It's all about gathering the data at this point.
Yeah.
Which is why you're asking them to check in at the Red Cross Center itself.
Yeah,
Yes.
because for this, the Red Cross actually is our primary partner for case management. And so it really is essential that they have that information. Even if folks aren't staying in the shelter, they need to register so that they can have a case manager assigned to them for the process.
Thank you. Yes.
So when I was at the shelter yesterday, it's clear that people have been very gracious in terms of donations and things like that. I think you've got enough water to float a ship and stuff. So, but the one thing that is desperately needed, as you guys were sharing with me yesterday, was financial donations. That is what can be the most impactful. And you've got a website that you can go to make an online donation. Do you want to tell us what that online donation site is? Yeah,
it's redcross.org. And just the way the website works is wherever it finds your zip code and it channels you the right place, so it knows that you're from Spokane, from Washington, wherever, and kind of guides you along. So yes, that is, and that, those dollars help us meet very specific needs. It'll ultimately help with individual assistance when it comes time to start talking about that. It all helps. One other thing I didn't mention that the mayor of Medical Lake said to me yesterday is that what they're hearing from a lot of people trying to go home is that they need to go get their meds. And that is a service the Red Cross can provide. We have nurses at our shelters. You come in and they'll sit and talk with you and help you get your prescriptions refilled. So I think that's a service that maybe isn't as well known and would be another reason for folks to come by.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? I'm sure there's going to be more questions as we go, but thank you so much for being here this morning and providing this information. I think, as we know, our meetings are recorded, and so hopefully the public will get this information, and we will all be here to help disseminate the information as well. So really appreciate it.
We'll do our best to keep you updated.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Tom Konis. We've gotten an email, or actually, I think everybody has.
Yep.
So Tom, I'm gonna let you talk about what opportunities you have.
Okay, so we have available a line to relieve some of the tax pressure on our people that are affected by the fire, that have lost a structure or an improvement. So we can, from the data destruction, zero out the improvement value of their properties and then get them either credit towards their second half bill, which of course hasn't been paid, or if they did pay it, the treasurer's office will issue them a refund. And then of course, until they rebuild again, that would have that zero value or reduced value for the improvements would carry through. So I've met with my people already this morning. I'm meeting with the treasurer at 10:30 to make sure that we try to expedite this thing as best we can to try to help people. And I've stressed to my staff that if they get an email or a phone call from a taxpayer talking about their loss, we are to return their call right away. They're already under enough stress. They don't need to wonder if the government's going to call them back. So I've really stressed that to all my people. We are setting up a little task force in our office. So we'll have 4 or 5 people that this will be for now what they do, at least as their primary role. So I'm going to ask, and I probably should get with John on this or the fire chiefs, a list of properties that have been destroyed. Because one way or another, we can't just unfortunately take the owner's verification that it was destroyed. We either have to lay eyes on it ourselves or get a certified list from another government entity before we can do all of this. Thankfully, with the iPads now, we are prepared if we need to load up all of the neighborhoods out in the 2 different affected areas and just send half a dozen or so people out just to get the pictures. And so to make sure, again, that we're verifying it and moving it along as rapidly as we can. The good part about this program is they can actually have 3 years to apply for this. So it's not like, if we miss October 1st, then they're out of luck. So that is a good thing. The only other question, and maybe John again or emergency management would know, are we looking at a special aerial imaging path out there? Because that would be truly helpful for our people to get something that was current. Of course we can't do it now, but once the smoke all clears, I think that would be a great thing to have for probably a number of different departments to be able to use that. We're busy printing up forms. Would you like some at your front counter? Okay, I'll make sure I bring some down. We are also, we're looking at running these out to the shelters, but I think almost we should wait till the disaster assistance one has opened up and then get them also some out. And if we need to sit there or, if we're willing to do that.
Commissioner
Go
French.
ahead.
So I'd suggest circling back with DNR. DNR has got a number of planes that have infrared imaging.
Sure.
And they use that when they're trying to determine what the impact. They're in the air pretty frequently, so that's one thing. The other thing is we have tax payment due date here, October 31.
Right.
So if your home has been impacted by the fire, how does that impact what you have to pay on October 31, or is that more of a case by case?
It would be a case by case or time by time. I mean,
Okay.
depending on when we get these processed, of course, the treasurer can't do 300 of them immediately. So it will be held up by my office, by the taxpayer, and then also by the treasurer's office. Whether or not they would have that credit or whatever available to them right at October 31, or if it would be after, and we would send them a rebate check.
So one of the challenges that Fire Chief Robeck was expressing yesterday in terms of how to quantify how many of the 185 structures have been damaged is that they do not have a site-specific inventory of how many buildings were on the property. So they don't know whether a foundation wall is for a house or for a shop or for a garage or what. And so I know that in your tax records, you know how many properties or how many buildings, how many structures are on each property and stuff. I think that would be valuable information for them as they do their assessment. Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Just
sure,
knowing
we
what's
can,
on the
we can
property.
sure get that to them. That's
Yeah.
not a problem at all.
Okay.
So I would suggest, talking with Chandra, because I think she's gonna be able to then help, and know what all these other resources are that are out there. And is there a way to get that form up online as well as hard copies out there?
One of my things, we're already working with Jessica on getting it on our website, but I would like it also to be put on the overall county website.
Yes.
So it's right there up front for people to find. Whereas right now, to find it, you have to search under forms and all this, junk. If we could just have it with a link right there.
Yes, we have Patrick right here,
Yep.
and we'll make sure that that happens, because I think that's gonna be critical for anyone, just to have all those resources available on the front page of our website, so people know where to go to, to apply for these things.
Again, to try to relieve what little bit of stress we could help with there, not to make them have to search all over the place to find this. So,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us know right away.
you bet.
Just a couple
Commissioner
clarifying
Yes.
questions. So if someone applies next year, they may still be eligible for a rebate or some kind of retroactive benefit.
Right, correct. They have up to 3 years to apply for this from the date of destruction. So,
And then just curious, sounds like the program is about destroyed property and then property that suffered a loss of value.
correct.
So what does that loss of value look like?
That's what we're struggling with, because, a fire that's going up through the Oregon Road, well, it destroys some of their trees. Is there value in it, even though we don't necessarily value the trees? So I've got a call already into the Department of Revenue to try to get some clarification from them on how far with that we would go. Typically, we have not done that. I mean, they haven't lost their view, except maybe their trees are all burned down, so now they're looking at the neighbor's junkyard. So, there's just so many different scenarios that we'll have to do on a case by case.
I think Commissioner Cooney can probably respond to that one.
Or it increases your view.
Yeah, there you go.
Increases
When
your
you
view.
lose all 10 acres of your trees.
Yes,
So yes, so no, it's a hard thing, and
it is.
And, as Commissioner French knows, and I mean, having been through the Valley View fire and seeing the destruction, we didn't have our foundation was in at the time, but all of our neighbors lost their homes, and this will take years for people to get through this. It is, I think we all think, trying to help right now and it's instantaneous, but they are displaced literally for years. So, Commissioner French.
So when you say loss of value, the one thing that I was struck by out at Medical Lake is that you might have one house that's standing and 3 houses around it that have been destroyed. And so when you say loss of value, in terms of market value, my suspicion is, and I do not know this, and I'm asking the question, that one house that's left standing because it's surrounded by devastation, would they also experience a loss of value?
Again, in my opinion, they would.
Okay,
Because there would be then a stigma about that
Yeah.
out there right now.
Right.
Again, this doesn't apply to the land value. The
Right.
land is still there. But on the reverse side, I see like at Silver Lake, where there's now an awful lot of lakefront property that's gonna be available if people decide not to rebuild. Is that gonna inflate the prices of that out there? Because we haven't had those sales in a long time.
Well, and follow up, so if you have so some, it's harvest season, some have harvested, some have not. And so if you had a standing crop that hadn't been harvested yet, you more than likely you've got insurance
Right.
for the crop. But because you've had an impact on your field, would there be potentially loss of value there until the field got to a point to where it could regrow?
If it made it so that it would not regrow, then yes, I would think that it would, because we're valuing it, not the crop, of course, but we're valuing it as
Income producing.
farmland, income
Yeah.
producing. Now,
I'm just-
most of those properties thankfully are already in the current use program. So the actual dollar back to them would be very minimal,
I'm just thinking,
because they have a reduced value. But if they aren't in that, then of course,
yeah, I'm going back to Mount St. Helens where
Yeah.
fields were covered with ash.
right,
Everybody thought everything good, but ash turned out to be
Mhm.
fertilizer and crops ended up becoming stronger. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Tom, thank you very much for being here.
no, you bet.
And I think, we'll do whatever we can to make sure that people are aware.
We get the word out. That's the most important part today.
Yes, and I think when, at the press conference yesterday morning, I was telling some of the reporters off after the press conference that there will be a press release coming out today for relief. So we want to make sure we do get that out, so that way people are aware of another way that the county can be helping people that have been affected.
Fantastic. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks,
So,
Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for responding to me too over the weekend. That made me feel good.
And you're welcome to stay, as we talk about.
I don't have to be anywhere till 10:30 till I meet
There you go.
the treasurer.
Yeah. Just, because we're just gonna continue the conversation. I mean, I knew Chandra and John needed to get off to other things. It would have been great for them to hear. But you'll be in touch with Chandra and let her know. So, thank you. So I think I think all of us commissioners have been, people have been reaching out, businesses have been reaching out. I know Avista's reached out, just offering whatever help, they can. I don't know who else has been reaching out. I did get an email from Pat, help me, basically from the White House, I think, that.
And the White House Intergovernmental Department checking in, had been in touch with the governor's office as well, and they let us know the governor had been in touch with FEMA. So those conversations have started, but they're very preliminary.
And so we're just, Patrick's helping me make sure I'm responding and giving all the right information back to them and just letting them know that, thanking them for reaching out. Everything's got to go through all the right channels, but appreciate the touches. I know you guys saw the governor yesterday. So I just, as things come in, I'm making sure, kind of using Patrick as the main source, so that way he's aware of all the different ones. So we're not all responding, so we can have a coordinated effort. I think with 5 commissioners now, it's a little harder, so we want to make sure that we are doing a coordinated effort. So as you get emails or, calls from people, if, we just want to make sure that I think we're doing a coordinated effort back. So it's not a whole bunch of different emails that everyone's saying something different. But as you get those emails, like I know Senator Murray's office sent us all an email. I know Patrick got that. So that way we can just be coordinated and not be disjointed. I think that's going to be key. So as you get that information, we're going to use Patrick as kind of that funnel point for communication, because it's all communication and making sure we're doing it, well, and getting the right information out. So I don't know if anyone else has gotten anything else that you want to talk about.
So, and I know that Amber was there yesterday when we were talking to the governor, and the one thing that between the governor's office and Red Cross and some of the other local electeds there, the one gap that was very apparent was that there is no funding, at least according to yesterday, that was going to be coming from the state with regard to rental assistance. And I know that Red Cross is set up to provide some rental assistance initially and stuff, but when I was talking to them yesterday, they did not know how long they were going to be able to provide the rental assistance, and we're asking, is there any other resources available to try and address that? And so I did reach out to Jeff to talk about the possibility of maybe using some of our ARP money that was designated for rental assistance to help with regard to this. When they were talking from the state, I mean, I was shocked that the state didn't have a pool of money. In fact, the chief of staff, I think, said that they had one account that had a total of $10 million for the entire state. And he was like, well, that's de minimis and stuff. So I did ask Jeff to maybe reach out to Heather and say, hey, we've got rental assistance money. Is there any value in trying to target some of that? Or, in the case of the Historic Flight Foundation, there's $250,000 that needs to be reallocated. Is there any desire on behalf of the board to maybe try and funnel some of that rental assistance money over to the folks that with both the Oregon Fire and the Medical Lake Fire and stuff? So I just raised that as a conversation point. It seems like that's an avenue that we could weigh in and provide some relief, but it requires us to take another look at the ARP fund. And I think there's a couple different categories that we have available that we could tap. So just wanted to put that on the radar and say, hey, can we have a conversation about that?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it earlier. I just want to make sure that we can legally do that. I don't want to make promises that we can't keep.
Yep.
And so,
They might have to meet certain
yeah,
eligibility. I don't know though. I know some of the ARPA funds were targeted towards a particular
So
population.
talking with Heather this morning, I know Scott's talked with her too. The rental assistance ARP is outside of our 100 million that we reference in some of that rental assistance additional funds. There's approximately $2 million left at SNAP. And we've been texting, Heather, if you're hearing, you might want to jump on. It looks like we're at an 80% AMI, which for a family of 4 is 71.2. For a family of 2, it's 57,000. So for that particular pot of money, we would have that cap. At first, we thought it was a 50%, but Heather, digging deeper, thinks it's at 80 now. So that would be one possible source. There is, if you want to go back to the county's 101 million of ARP in the yellow sheet, there is a category that covers rental assistance. Of course, you'd have to be, everything is currently allocated, as you all are very aware. But if you've made any shifts in those allocations, that's a category. We've not had a chance yet to talk with legal to see if that's something that could be a direct allocation, or if it would have to go through the RFP process.
I think another question I'd have, would there be any way that we would be able to target it to those impacted by the fire? Or if we created a rental assistance, would it be open to everybody, kind of regardless of what the reason for the need of rental assistance would be? There'd be a way to target it specifically to those impacted by the fire.
The money that's gone to SNAP, that we'd have to stick with those targets, which is the 80% AMI.
Yeah.
I want to double check with legal, but the way we've been doing ARP, we think of our 100 million, we can narrow the scope, we can't broaden the scope. So My initial non-lawyer thought is, yes, we could have a rental assistance due to a fire emergency. ARP does have that COVID nexus, but, a lot of the funds that have gone out aren't necessarily directly related to COVID. And that's national. You think of the infrastructure that's allowed. The infrastructure that we did honestly has nothing to do with COVID. That's nationally. That was just the federal government allowing, maybe it would create jobs and help when people lost jobs originally. There's probably some nexuses there. Nexuses is plural that way. So there are some legal things we would need to confirm, but I think there'd probably be a way.
Yeah, with the SNAP contract, again, we'll have to confer with Chris and team, but there may be a way to do an amendment to their contract to have it be more specific to financial hardships, which is allowed under ERA as we understand it, for this specific instance. So more work to come on that.
Yeah, and then I guess questions would be, so people that were in apartments, have those apartments really burned down, or are they just not able to go back to them at this point in time? And then it's like, if someone lost their home and doesn't have insurance and they have to go rent, since it's a new rental, there's just a lot of questions that we have. So, I just don't want to be giving false hope at this point in time, but we certainly all want to make sure that if we have any ability to do that, I think we're all, very much so in wanting to make that happen. But there's just a lot of questions, I think, that are left to be answered. Commissioner Waldron.
I was just looking, I remember last week that Lisette from Senator Murray's office had forwarded out the new guidance, and it includes the new eligible uses include emergency relief from natural disasters, as well as the surface transportation or Title I, like CDBG projects.
So her email is what triggered my
You're like,
interest
oh,
in.
wasn't that
hey, look at
timely?
there's a source, and so I thought, coming from Senator
Yeah.
Murray's office, it probably has some juice to it.
But yeah, this
It's
comes
now a
from the
matter of us-
Treasury.
It's a matter of us exploring it and finding out, can we put it to use here?
It's
And,
just from August 2023, new guidance from Treasury.
The 17th round of final guidance.
It's the final.
The final. Heather's also looking into the possibility of short-term hotel
And
with the SNAP funds. And I think her cursory first glance looked like that could be an option also, but again, back to your comments on false hope, we want to make sure we're.
And it'll be key to be coordinating with the Red Cross again, which is why everyone needs to at least check in with the Red Cross if you've been affected, so that way, because I would assume they're the ones that will be, again, I'm saying assuming because, we don't know for sure, but they would be the ones, kind of coordinating all of this, because they'll be looking to help people get services so they can get out of the shelters, so.
it seems like as they start to identify the need and start interviewing folks and doing the case management, if there's identified that there's a gap, there's still a gap, we could definitely look into it if we could get some more guidance on it.
And I know there's been community funds that are already raising money
Right,
too, as
right.
well, for
That's what I was
these
thinking.
types of gaps as well. And then behind you, I see.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, if you didn't know, that Justin's behavioral health team is also on site at the evacuation site at the falls. And they've been providing behavioral health services and trying to connect folks and doing a lot of problem solving. And our veteran services team is also engaging some veterans who've been displaced as well.
Thank you.
Well, another approach with SNAP is, because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're still sitting on about $2 million worth of rental assistance, and the rate at which that has been applied for has slowed down dramatically and stuff. And so if we can't amend their contract, is there a pathway that says, let them return that allocation to the county and we'll just reallocate it with the new parameters? They might end up with the same amount of money, but they just have a broader scope in terms of what they could use the money for. So I guess the request is be creative, not to the point to where we're reckless, but absolutely none of us anticipated being here, so let's be creative to get out of here.
So Scott, I think next I have that you wanted to talk about employees that have been affected.
Yeah, so certainly our community has been affected by this, and then within our Spokane County employee families, we've had some impacts, and we're presumably going to learn of more impacts as well. So Ashley and her team have been looking at how can we assist with that. I'm sure some of our employees are wanting to know how they can assist, and one of the ideas is on our shared leave policy, which allows other employees to donate PTO and other time off accruals to those that are impacted by it. So want to have Ashley share a little bit about some ideas on how we might step into that. We have some bargaining unit contract language around that, but I think she's got some good ideas on what the commissioners might be able to do to help kind of cover some of those gaps.
Yeah, so we do have various bargaining contracts that include shared leave allowances. Our PTO policies currently do not. So anybody that's on PTO or non-repped currently does not allow for shared leave. Looking at all of this stuff over the weekend, it would be my recommendation and my ask from this group to approve us to go to the bargaining units and to amend our current PTO policy to allow for shared leave across groups for our share. So those people that are impacted by the fire, meaning they're either in the evacuation areas or have lost their homes, would be those who would qualify to be eligible to ask for and use shared leave. My current thought right now is we put some time parameters around it. So for those who actually suffer a loss of home, my head tells me maybe a 2-month window of the ability to ask. So over the next 2 months until people are back kind of settled, so to speak. For those in the evac zones, my recommendation would be that the HR department just watch it and we move kind of weekly where that needs to be, so that we're ensuring that those who really do need the leave are the ones who are asking for and qualifying for it. Josh Grote would very quickly get the email ask and the MOUs out to our bargaining units to open it up so that we can get them on board. I am very hopeful they will also all be open to this. I don't foresee them saying no, but that would be something that Josh would coordinate as soon as I get the okay from you all to go do that, and then I could amend the policy as well for PTO. The other thing is there are confirmed right now, I know for certain we have 2 employees who have fully lost their homes. Both, I thought they were both locations, but they're actually both the Gray Fire. And then I have 3 more that I'm aware of currently on evac list. After meetings today, I was going to reach out to the rest of our department heads and leadership team and just say, as you learn of evacuations or things like that, here's the email to funnel it to. And HR, we can divert a lot of our attention for the next little bit to make sure those who are impacted understand what options the county might have for them. I know the Red Cross has locations available, and Chandra was talking about it in items, but the other thought I had was maybe we do some sort of internal drive if we need to. So if we have employees that are impacted that maybe say, hey, I need size large t-shirts or size 10 shoes or something like that. Personal items seem to be a big ask, toothbrushes, toothpaste, things you just don't think about. So my other thought was, could we look at internally for our employees, and we could funnel it through HR, but creating some sort of ask and receive list for people that need stuff. And then if we do have anything left over, eventually once the Red Cross says, okay, we do want items, we could then transport those items to those locations. Or if they say we're full, we're good, then we could look at giving them to other community partners if we did have excess of anything that has other types of homes for safe shelter or things like that. So that's kind of where my head's been at this weekend. But I don't even know the magnitude yet. I just know the few that have already been reported to us.
So a comment I have is listening to Betsy over the weekend from the Red Cross is that it's really, I mean, it's a different situation than being homeless in this situation than being homeless on the street, in that cash is really what they need, so they can actually give the people money to go purchase what they need, because it's like just Yeah,
Yeah.
because they have personal preference, you know, of things, and so, so that way they can purchase some shoes that actually fit them
Right.
right. And buy a shirt that is, I mean, they may not wear t-shirts, they may wear polos, you know, that kind of thing. That, that cash has really been, what they've been requesting to, versus, again, just people bringing in bags of clothing. So I would love for us to, you know, if we could put together a fund to do that to help. And then on the time off side, I'm wondering, could it go into a fund that then HR would, instead of to specific individuals, because it's gonna be different amounts of time for each individual, that it could go into, here's a fire emergency fund for PTO and time off, which maybe wouldn't have to, I don't know if it'd still have to be bargained or talked to just on an emergency basis, that would allow you to let those people access those hours versus individuals. That's just one thought I have.
2 months seems too short to me. I was just, why don't we just, I mean, I know we know the bargaining units have to agree to this, but as just to the end of the year. I mean, we're already almost into September, just till the end of 2023. Start with that. I mean, I just think when you do 2 months,
So
I mean,
I would say, having been through it with neighbors and all of that, I mean, a lot of them do want to get back to, you know, you're now in a hotel or different things. And so there's different time off requirements that you need. It isn't just a set, I need 2 months off.
Yeah.
It's, I need time to get settled, but now I want to get back to work because I don't want to, you know, really lose my job, and I want to keep my normal activities going. But then as they start to rebuild, they've got to figure out what's that going to look like. There's more time off in the future, which is why I was kind of thinking of fund for them to access.
because I was just, I mean, I would assume beyond 2 months from now, folks are going to have things that they need to do that they may not need to do in that first 2 months, but say 3 months down the road, oh, I have some sort of meeting, something I have to attend that I wouldn't have had to attend at this fire night. I mean, you know, once they do start to rebuild, you gotta meet with a builder, you gotta meet with a contractor, I mean, just things that I'm sure I can't even imagine right now that they're gonna have to deal with. So I don't know, I would just, cramming everything into that 2 months, to me, that just seems like too short of a time.
Perfect.
But
I didn't know where to start. That's where I started. I like the end of the year idea. I hear the fund. I just don't know if we can manage it that way through the way payroll works. The way we already have the shared leave process in place for payroll and how we can execute it. I'll go look and see if there's any way where someone could say like, I'll donate this many hours and we deduct it from their bank and put it in a shared bank. I'm just not sure if that's possible on the way that we manage the payroll side of it. So I'll get with Veronica.
I'm looking at Randy back there
Yeah.
too.
Well, so it's actually the benefits team at HR that manages shared leave. And then we connect with Veronica on the deduction side and the paycheck. So I'll have to look and see if and how, but I hear what you're saying. If we people, the other side of that then would be if we have a whole bunch of hours that get donated but don't use, then the process of having to push them back in creates another event. So I'm trying to, I hear you, let me go figure out what's gonna be the easiest for everyone to manage, since we have limited staff who do these things anyways, and I wanna make sure that we're doing it in a way that from the auditor's perspective, they can track it, and that from the employee's perspective, we're able to adequately manage it. But yes, I hear what you're saying.
Do you have another comment? Commissioner?
Well, I have another comment, but not necessarily for her.
Okay. Commissioner Jordan.
I'm just thinking about what's going on right now, right? This policy might take a little bit to
I can
approve.
probably flip it overnight, so if you guys give me the yes, I can have it on your consent by tomorrow. And the unions, I can get emails out today, and as long as they send yeses back, we can get MOUs routed very quickly.
Is there any way to make it like retroactive or something if someone's needing to be out today? I don't know, I'm just trying to think about the immediate.
I could date it retroactive use back to
The state of emergency, which was Saturday.
And I think the reality is most of our employees have PTO or vacation time. And through a shared leave policy change, there would be hours put back into their bank to make up for what they're taking off right now. Because I have to imagine that our employees who have been impacted are already utilizing that. They're not coming into the office today.
And that's if they meet the, right, so if they have their own, you know, they can use there, and it's really when they start to not have it, that's where the shared leave comes in, right? Ashley Cameron has run out of PTO, she still needs additional resource, or it's a new employee that's maybe only been here for 2 months and they've only accumulated 23 hours, right? So it's really when they get to that place where they don't have those hours available on and they are continuing to be out. So I think we're probably good for the first few days, but as I'm looking into next week, the week after, a lot of people don't carry that balance of more than about a week of time off. And that's my concern, is then what, right?
I think there is some merit to kind of a balance of both what you mentioned, Commissioner Cuny and Commissioner Kearns, having personally experienced this before. There's going to be a time now where your focus is on your family, your loss of your home, and that's all your focus is, and it's not work. And then there's going to be some time where you need to kind of get back to normalcy. But then there is going to be various things you have to attend to over 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, and beyond. So I think a little bit of a flex in that is going to be appropriate for our employees.
You've experienced it
I
personally.
have, yes.
So I think are giving the head nod to go forth and see what we can make happen.
Correct. Thank you. So I'll have the policy on consent for tomorrow. And then I will look into, rather than items, is there a way we could maybe set up a fund or something? I know there's other entities already doing that, so maybe partnering with them and then getting information to our employees to be able to understand where to send that. The management of that could be extensive, right? But I will do some more digging on that side. I think that's a very valid point. Yeah.
Commissioner French, you're under.
So the other opportunity for us to be of assistance, and I'm still, so one, Medical Lakes Building and Planning Department is not exhaustive. And so Scott Chesney did email me over the weekend, maybe you emailed the rest of you too, about, hey, one of the things that we could do at the county is we could assist the city of Medical Lake with regard to permitting and be able to get new construction underway sooner than later, so that we help them eliminate the inevitable bottlenecks that'll occur when you have that many homes all of a sudden swamp you. So I don't know whether that is something that you and he can coordinate independently without having any kind of board instruction or board support, but I would certainly support that in terms of just, we're certainly gonna have building permits for the unincorporated area, but the majority of the devastation, as Commissioner Cooney and I saw on Saturday morning, was inside the city of Medical Lake, and it's gonna take a lot of work to get them back into construction, just clean up, much less back into construction. So whatever we can do at that area and that level, that would be deeply appreciated.
Yeah, we will absolutely look to find ways to partner and help our other jurisdictions, specifically Medical Lake. We'll have likely some needs to have our inspectors out there to do structural assessments too, for those that are damaged but not destroyed, and are they inhabitable, are they not? So we will absolutely be reaching out to them through Monty and team and finding out what support we can provide for them.
Well, there were some homes that, had the old vinyl siding on it, and the house is still standing, but the siding is kind of drooped from the heat and stuff. So, the house is habitable, but just needs some facelift and stuff, so. Yeah.
We will absolutely look for how we can help them out.
Okay.
Okay, that's kind of what I had on the list of things we needed to talk about this morning. Are there anything else anyone wants to talk about regards to fire and how we move forward? Commissioner Jordan.
I just want to let everybody know, I just got contacted from Senator Cantwell's office. She may be coming tomorrow, and so I'll direct that to Pat about the the possibility of a visit or some kind of tour or something. So it looks like that they're working to confirm that, but it is envisioned to be about 1 tomorrow. So I just want to put that out there as we just discussed going through Pat. Are we planning to have a regular legislative agenda tomorrow? And I'm just checking on the plan for tomorrow. I know it's fluid.
Seems very fluid.
Maybe we will take that, play it by
That's
ear.
one word for it. No, we need more.
We need more to
More
be
fluid,
fluid.
yeah.
I know that the senator's aide was there on Saturday at the, and so I don't mean this to be self-serving, but since they're in my district and she's gonna be in town, I would prefer to be out there and help assist her in terms of the nature and scope of the impact. And so if I choose to do that, I will be at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I think what we have to, I mean, I think we've been, you know, with Patrick, and I think I would let you all know when we're doing press conferences and all of that, that I think all of us, you know, whether it's, you know, anyone's specific district, I certainly want you to be there.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, we're all
We could work
feel
with
very
them to
committed,
set
so.
up a little bit or something, we'll see.
Yeah, if they would change the town, so, you know, I'd welcome all of us going there, quite frankly, because
No, I'd like
it's a significant
Just bad
event, but
timing
Yes.
for-
there should at least be one of us and stuff, so that's my only thought.
No, so I think, you know, Patrick, like you did over the weekend, if you can just keep everyone so it's, everyone can, again, filter that to Patrick, and Patrick keeps everyone informed as to when these events are happening, because I think, yes, yeah, everybody's cares and wants to be part if they can. You know, I know for me yesterday, it's like, you know, been part of some of the press conferences, but then trying to let, you know, not have everybody at every place, I don't know, but that's everyone, that's our individual choices, we're all independently elected, so that's the choice, but I think that's what's important to, if you get that information, to send it through Patrick, and that way he can put it out.
Just got it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Also, keep in mind, Zoom is always an option. I mean, if you go out and do a tour, you got
That's not a bad idea.
15
Maybe I can-
minutes to hop on your phone, zoom into our 2 o'clock,
Yeah,
take the votes and log off and back to the
That's a
tour.
good suggestion,
Or-
yeah.
or Chris, this is my question to you, can we, since we are under emergency, can we just state that we're gonna move it to 3 o'clock?
You can, you just post it on the door and say the meeting has
Posted
been,
today, we'll be fine on notice,
So,
In
24 hours, yeah. So if if you make the decision this morning, you should be fine as far as noticing that change, and without needing to do any other additional actions other than.
because I wanna make sure that we take care of the issue for Ashley, because that's gonna be timely that we approve that. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't wanna not have the 2 o'clock, but, you know, we can certainly, I think at this point, realize that we need to change.
Or 11 or noon, so we can get it done before the tour too.
Yes, we could do that as well. Because
It's not bad.
there's not
We can
actually
do
a
it later.
lot.
Do it in the morning rather than in the afternoon, later in
We
the
have
afternoon.
7 items on there. We have no public hearings, board has no public hearings scheduled for tomorrow.
It's pretty
so
small.
very small.
compared to the last couple of weeks, we had a lot on there.
It's not a bad idea, just do it 11.
Yeah,
We got time.
so why don't we make the announcement that we will change it to 11 o'clock tomorrow, which would give everyone the afternoon. I guess we need to figure out kind of what, Scott and I will work through what we need to cover tomorrow morning. But there was really time is of the essence on, but the rest of it isn't. So we'll work through that today to figure out, and then we'll just plan on, you know, being here at 9. We'll take care of whatever business we can from 9 to 11. Can we just stay here at 11?
So procedurally, the better way to do this might be to set an 11 o'clock special meeting. And then cancel the 2 PM meeting
Okay,
and simply notice the agenda items that are currently on the agenda for the special meeting, along with whatever else board wants to take up at that time.
okay. I'm gonna let you figure that out.
I will work with Gina to make sure that's all set up.
We could just do all our business over there too.
Yeah, either way is fine, we just need to decide which location you wanna do it at and what time.
And then at this point in time, again, under the emergency and trying to condense things, can we forego the open public forum, or do we have to do the open public forum?
No, not at a special meeting.
Okay.
We would not need to do the open public forum at a special meeting.
So then I think, yeah, let's figure out how we do all that. Just because for purposes of time and because of the emergency, ask that we suspend that or at least that meeting.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Not that we don't want to hear from people, but people are welcome to email us. We are all monitoring emails very closely at this point in time, so if there's any pressing issues from the community, again, please feel free to email your commissioner, reach out to them, so that way we have that information and get that. Okay, and so then we will be working on just publicly saying we're going to be changing our 2 o'clock Commissioner Legislative agenda to 11 o'clock and make it a special meeting so that way we can cover the things that we need to cover to help expedite policies and procedures that we need to for employees as well.
We'll just need to have anything additional besides the shared leave changes that's gonna be on that special meeting. We wanna get that to Gina as soon as possible so that we can publish that special meeting agenda.
And then get 44 minutes. Yeah. Just saying.
So Ashley, sorry, Chris. Ashley, so if we can, I think, have a placeholder for what we think it's gonna be,
Jim
and
just
then,
whispered that to me too.
and then we can always, if we need to strike it, we can strike it, but at least I wanna have the placeholder there, so that way it'll be on the special meeting. And then it's not by leave, it's just part of the special meeting. Okay, anything else that people can think about?
Not in regards to tomorrow's meeting, but last night I went to a gathering that was held up in Elk, not too far outside of where the fires are located. It was at the Country Church of the Open Bible. The Congresswoman and I took a tour of their facility up there, and I just want to give a shout out to the amazing work they're doing. They were serving meals. They had rooms of clothes. I mean, set up for children, teens, adults. I mean, the community had just come together, and I mean they're overflowing with donation items. I mean, it was fantastic. On the way up there, we drove past the convoy of pickup trucks and trailers that have remained camped out right across the street from Miller's One Stop, just waiting for an address. I mean, there are folks just lined up in their personal vehicles with trailers, and when they're given an address, they're heading out and they're helping folks evacuate. They're getting their personal belongings, their livestock, everything. I mean, it's just, when I got to speak to the group last night, just told them, you see community everywhere you look up there right now. I mean, with these tragedies, I mean, people are coming together, helping their neighbors, helping people get out, get safe. I mean, it was amazing. Then we swung by Riverside High School, where the evacuation site is there, and toured that. Great staff there. I was actually surprised. Most of the Red Cross employees that were there aren't even from this area. 2 of them were from Snohomish and 2 of them were from Thurston County. But they were the ones at the main desk there when you check in. So, but it's just everything I've seen is people are working very well together. So it's great.
Lands Commissioner Hillary Franz was at the Spokane Falls Community College in the morning and went through the shelter and everything like that. And as she was leaving to go down to the Cheney Middle School, she said, this is impressive. I've never seen a community come together this way to help each other. So the Red Cross and all the volunteer help, I mean, she was just very impressed with how the community came together. So that was nice to hear from her. So,
Well, and when I,
Just a second, Commissioner
No, go
Jordan.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just thought that the feeling inside the SFCC shelter was just warm,
Yeah.
welcoming, comfortable, and it's very clean and very well organized. And people I know when they got there probably were just traumatized by how quickly they had to leave their properties, or some people were even out and could never go home. But was it yesterday? It seems like a blur. Sunday, midday, there was just a sense of, although I saw a few tears, there was calm and just care. So I was just very impressed by the Red Cross and I did get to meet some of the, is it the Medical Reserve folks who are helping with behavioral or medical help from the county, so that was great. Yeah. Excellent care.
Just to bring us back a little bit to the shared leave issue, I just wanted to ask people what they think about making employees eligible who have folks from the evacuation zone staying with them in their home. That might be a need as well to take a little bit of time that could benefit from shared leave. So I just wanted to ask that question, as I know there's a lot of families staying with others, and then we might have county employees who need to take a day or two to kind of get settled with their family staying with them. So just wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, it currently doesn't fall under our qualifications, so Commissioner Jordan had a good point to ask if that's something you would like for me to include. A little bit more difficult for me to be able to track kind of taking people on their honor, but I am completely willing and open to add that as well. Commissioner French.
I'd like to, because we can do what you suggested initially, we can do that immediately. I'd like to be able to employ that. Let's have a conversation about what, and talk about, not necessarily for tomorrow, but soon, about what Commissioner Jordan is requesting, and maybe there's some way that we can wrap our hands around that. I mean, if you're not set up for it now, setting up for it could be, exhaust a lot of resources. That'd be okay.
I suppose I don't know if you could have people fill out a form saying, I attest that, I am impacted. I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah. So, and I forget who mentioned the effort that Avista has done, but I had a chance to talk to them yesterday, and they reached out to the medical school and got students from the medical school to come out to the shelters and provide, bathing and a lot of other services for folks that were in the shelter that, were either seniors or handicapped or whatever. And she said, that for the shelter operation, they said that was a significant impact, because not only were people being taken care of, but it also improved the hygiene for the shelter dramatically and stuff. So, so kudos to the medical students. I mean, they had the opportunity to deal with live patients and not, anyway, it was a lot of great work. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying on trying to help. I think that's just gonna get harder though for us to manage how we do that with people that are having people stay at their house. Like I said, I know several people around the county that are doing that. It's also working with the department heads, because they have, stuff that has to be done as well. I don't know, so I just worry as to what would that really look like, and how would we do that, and how do you make sure, and is there a real need, versus the people that are actually displaced, that are in shock, that are trauma.
I agree they'd be the first priority, so maybe it's just something to actually think about and look at as you're crafting this.
Thank you. Okay, anything else before we conclude for this morning? And I just want to say thank you to Jeff and Patrick too. I mean, Gina, all the staff this weekend that worked really hard to help get us all, keep us all informed, get the emergency meeting taken care of. I know Chris is out of the room, but Chris Anderson, helping get that emergency order. I think getting that declaration done quickly on Saturday was key to getting the state and the feds and everybody on board. So just thank you all to the staff for the team here, not just staff, the team. It's been a real team effort. So appreciated that nobody knew that their weekends were going to be busy. And again, I think, all of us can say our thoughts and prayers are really with the people that are still evacuated, don't know if their house, is still standing or not. I think there's still several people that they don't know that. And the people that lost their homes, as Scott and I know, it is tragic. And the first responders have just been awesome. They are stretched so thin. They've been working, 24/7. That you just have to say thank you to all of them. They're still in emergency fighting the fire mode. We're not, we're talking about recovery. They're not in recovery mode yet. They're still fighting these fires to get these fires under control. And, the winds, with the change in weather today, it could be helpful, but if the winds kicked up, as we know, just driving around and from fires in my area, hotspots happen for weeks. And it just takes a little bit of wind to kick up those embers. And so people still have to stay very vigilant in these areas that, I don't know, we're not out of the woods yet. And so I just want to say thank you to all the first responders and everybody affected. So with that, I will conclude our meeting for today. I know we're continuing what we had on the agenda to a future date. We don't know what that future date is. As of tomorrow, then we will be here at 9:00, and we will have a special meeting at 11:00, and we will cancel our 2:00 legislative meeting, and that will be part of our 11:00 special meeting. I hope I've said that all correctly, since I don't have legal now here to make sure I did.